Hey, what's up everyone? This is Ill Factor from beatacademy.com, and in this video I'm going to share with you some music production tips while recreating the beat in Zedd's Good Thing featuring Kehlani. So let's dive right in. So let's take a listen to the final product and where I have everything right now. So let's start by focusing in on the time signature, because that plays a big role in the overall feel and vibe of this particular song. Now, most pop music and commercial music is written in 4/4, which means there's 4 beats per measure and a quarter note receives that beat. But this song in particular is written in a 6/8 time signature. And that's where you get a lot of that swing, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the kind of vibe that we're getting. So that time signature plays a big role in producing that kind of vibe. So I'm going to head over here to my top left-hand corner and switch it from a 4/4 time signature to a 6/8 time signature. Now, it wouldn't be a Zedd track without some kind of grandfather clock ticking away in the background. So I've got a clock loop here. I'm just going to click, drag, and drop that onto an audio track, and let's play that. Now I'm going to just create a warp marker by double-clicking on that transient and snapping this to bar 1 beat 2, and we're going to go from bar 1 beat 3 and highlight that and hit Command L to loop that. Cool. Let's head over to the drum rack. Now this drum rack is loaded with some sounds that I've taken from a sample pack I've put together, filled with construction kits, loops, one-shots, transition effects, and this is yours absolutely free. Click the link below in the description box to download this, and you could follow along using these sounds here. So let's take a listen to the sequence. So I'm going to do a couple things. I want to highlight all the snares. So click the snare key here. That's going to highlight the whole row. And holding the Option key, I'm going to click and drag down so that we can layer that snare with the clap. But what we're going to do is just slightly nudge the clap ahead of the snare so it adds a little bit of texture, almost like a flam. So by clicking the clap, holding the Command key so it just bypasses the grid, let's nudge it slightly to the left. So I might just want to go a little bit back, and there you go. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the kick, but instead of flamming the kick, we're just going to layer that kick. So with all the kicks highlighted, holding Option, we're going to go to another kick drum here. I think this kick drum was taken from the Ill Dreams construction kit in the same sample pack. Now I've gone ahead and grouped the clock loop and the drum rack together, and I'm going to do some processing using Ableton Live's Drum Bus plugin, and this is just providing some drive, some crunch, and a little bit transient boost, and also some low end boost and some compression. So this is without the drum bus. And so we're adding some saturation, the transients, and a little bit of that low end boost here by adding some sub frequencies to the drum. Now let's focus in on the melodic chords we hear at the beginning of the song. Now, one of the biggest aspects of sound design and one of the most helpful tools that you can have is being able to visualize a sound, because that will narrow down where to go to when trying to recreate it. So listening to it, we definitely hear like a marimba. It's got like that melody type of vibe, but there's also some, underlayered sine wave type of file. So let's start with that. Let's use Ableton Live's wavetable, but you can follow along using any 2 or more oscillator synth. And it's not really bright of a tone, so we're going to start by staying with our sine wave. And let's focus in on the chords. All right, so even just a basic standard sine wave is somewhat close. But what we'll do is let's go ahead and filter this out so that we can send some of that frequency to an envelope and then create a little bit of movement there. And we're going to add some resonance. So we got a nice little peak. And heading over to the matrix, we're going to assign the filter frequency to envelope 2. And we'll just leave that at 50. We'll crank it up to 50 just to see more or less whether we have to go more or less. We'll figure that out in a little bit. And then let's go to envelope 2 and shape the actual frequency envelope. That's what's really giving a nice attack and body to the sound. So we're going to extend the release a little bit more so we have a little bit of a tail. Lowering the sustain makes it too choppy. And raising the decay will lengthen out the distance between opening up the filter and closing again. So that's cool there. I'll layer Oscillator 2 with some white noise. So we'll click white noise here. And then what we'll do is we'll go over here, add some unison, which is like some global detuning. That's cool. So now we can go ahead and layer that with more of that marimba texture that we hear. For that, let's just load up a sampler that has a marimba sample on it. So I'm going to use the Native Instruments Contact Factory Library marimba patch for the marimba that we're going to be using. Now I also want to add a little bit of white noise on top of that as well. So I'm going to group this contact by hitting Command G, and that's going to allow me to stack this sampler with another instrument. So I'm going to use the analog instrument or any synthesizer with white noise on it. And let's just go ahead and choose for Oscillator 1. Instead of the shape, instead of sawtooth, let's go to this. We're in here for noise. And what we're going to do is just filter out some of the top end of that. And just actually shape the tone of it right here. This is the actual filter envelope. And we're just going to lower the mix or lower the volume of it. Just want it faintly in the back. So I just went to the amp envelope here on the analog and just lowered the decay and sustained. That gives a nice little white noise texture that we hear with those chords. All right, next we're going to use an acoustic piano just to accent certain parts of the chord progression. So here we have a piano. I'm using Excellent Audio's Addictive Keys, the modern upright patch. And what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and hold, I'm going to click the chord pattern from the sine wave that we created earlier. And I'm going to hold shift to the piano pattern. That way we can see them simultaneously side by side. As you can see here, the main chord pattern is very consistent. You see there's a lot more here, but we're really just accenting the quarter note value of that pattern with the piano. And that really helps create that nice swing from back and forth. That accent really helps create more of the swing element that we're trying to get and feel from this song. Now I'm going to focus in on creating this call and response bass line that you can hear in the chorus. So once again, let's use a wavetable for this. And this is going to be a little bit more present. So I'm not going to use a sine wave for this. Probably going to go with a square wave. And let's check out the pattern. All right, what we're going to do is, similar to what we did with the sine wave earlier, let's go ahead and bring the filter frequency down and a little bit of resonance for some peak. And we're going to route the frequency filter to an envelope. So let's just set it to 50. and go back over here to that envelope 2 that we routed it to and just shape it. And then let's add a sub oscillator here. And let's set it from poly to mono. And we could just use a little bit more release. And let's see what that feels like. Now in the second half of the chorus, it picks up a little bit because of the syncopation and more rhythmic elements that are introduced in there. So it almost has like this jazzy brush drum kit happening. So for that, I'm going to go back to using XLN Audio, and they have Addictive Drums too. So I've got that loaded and using a modern jazz brush kit that they have. So with that in there, let's just focus in on the rhythm that we've got playing. Then I'm going to go use a compressor to sidechain this this drum part. So I'm going to compressor, drag and drop that there. And I'm going to use the sidechain feature here. Click sidechain. And I'm going to use the kick drum under the drum rack. Look for the kick. We'll go kick pre. And I'm going to do dramatic sidechaining here because I want it to feel like the loop just completely disappears and slowly swells back in. So let's see what that feels like with everybody else. I'll go in here and maybe lower the room miking a little bit and add some saturation. So we'll go here, click the saturator and crank up the drive and lower the output. Now for the next part, let's add those synth stabs that we hear. And they've got a brassy type of feel to it. So immediately in my mind, I'm going to travel over to the sawtooth, filter it down a little bit. But that's the brighter of the basic waveform. So let's start with that. Wavetable. Let's go to Oscillator 1. And let's start over here with a sawtooth. And here is the pattern. Now, let's go ahead and shape this a little bit. So let's bring the frequency filter down so we're not making it so bright. Give it a little resonance, and that's going to help create that trumpety or brassy type of vibe. So what we're going to do is, you guessed it, map the filter frequency to our envelope 2. So let's go to that. Let's go somewhere around here and go to envelope 2 to shape just how does the filter frequency open? Is it going to be long, short? So that's what we're doing with this envelope. Now, brassy, you might want to have a little slower attack. And then we'll put the release up a little bit and just start experimenting with the decay and sustain. So I'll bring the filter frequency down a little bit so that it can go from a darker sound to a brighter sound much in that span of the filter adjustment. Now let's go to Oscillator 2. Same thing, we'll do another sawtooth, but this is going to go an octave higher, so 12 semitones. I'm going to go to the amp envelope and just shape this a little bit. And then giving that nice wide chorusy effect is over here, this unison. So we'll go to classic, and I'm going to put 8 voices of of unison there, and we'll just mess around with the amount. All right, and then we're gonna add a little bit of reverb. So we'll go to audio effects, reverb directly, inserting that onto the synth. Let's bring the dry and wet down and lower the decay time so it's not so long. Let's see what that sounds like with everybody else. Maybe the attack's a little too late, so we'll bring that back and we can open this up a little bit more and give it a little bit more unison, a little bit more reverb. And now to wrap this up, let's go ahead and put that walking up bass line that we hear throughout that chorus. So for this, I'm going to use Moto Bass. This is made by IK Multimedia. And let's go ahead and take a listen to the line. Well, I hope this video was helpful, encouraging, and inspiring in any way. And as my gift to you for watching this video, I'd love to send you the sample pack I mentioned earlier in this video, including some of the sounds we used in this remake. This also includes construction kits, loops, one-shots, transition effects, and it can be used in any DAW. Just simply click, drag and drop, and you're ready to go. And it's also 100% royalty free. So that means that you can use them in your projects and share that music with the rest of the world, no problem. Simply click the link below in the description box to download this, or you can visit beatacademy.com/pack and download your sample pack today. So be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all that crazy stuff so you can stay tuned with upcoming videos, and I'll see you next time.